Hi, you're listening to EXPAT Radio. I'm Bill Anderson, and I'm delighted to welcome back my good friend Hansi Støkken from Conrisa Cafe Gastrobar in La Cala on the Costa del Sol. Hansi is talking to us today about his recent trip around Spain, visiting wineries, and looking for the wines he wants to sell in his cafe. We're coming live from Conrisa Cafe today, so we may have some background noise as there are actually customers and staff working in the background. I refer to his recent trip as an 8-day pub crawl, and Hansi tells us that it's tough, but someone has to do it. But first, we talk about his legendary fortnightly wine tasting events, which fill up as soon as they're announced.
When you're on site and talking about wines, you try them. But like I said, when you maybe are on the 6, 7, 8 wine, it's your taste and smell and whatever might be a bit diminished. So it's like better to be safe than sorry.
And your and your memory.
Yeah, and your memory as well. But yeah, no, it's a nice event. You've been here, you know what it's all about. But it's about having fun.
Yeah, I mean, the reason we don't come more often, Hansi, is, well, you know that Vicky, my wife, weighs about 45 kilos soaking wet. And she after the second glass of wine, she wants to go to sleep somewhere.
Yeah, but that's why we have the trolling.
So Hansi, you had really pretty much a couple of years where it was quite hard to do your.
It was.
You're traveling around Spain and visiting places, but you finally got it in earlier this year, didn't you?
We did. We had the last one just before the lockdown was up to Penedès, which we will talk about later, which is in Catalonia, and that was February. And as you know, we were locked down in March, and then luckily we were able to travel again. So we went last November.
Right.
We did a trip of about a week, and we'll get back to the different areas.
You were more than a week away, were you?
I think I was seven nights.
You can only remember a week of it.
I came back in February. Is that more than a week? No one called me. No one missed me. That's hard part. But
listen, it's really hard doing the shows from Conrisa because the people that are listening in, you have no idea what I'm smelling right now. The food cooking in the kitchen, and oh my goodness, it is just superb. It's wonderful. Now, Hansi, tell us a little bit about the different places that you visited, and then we'll talk about some of the wines that come from these places.
Absolutely. Okay, let's start. We're going to do a journey a bit up and down and back and forth, so to speaking. But I think we're going to start in Rioja. Many people have heard of Rioja.
I think if you say Spanish wine,
yes,
for the majority of people, Rioja is what comes to mind, isn't it?
Exactly. Now, Rioja is quite far up. You know Spain, you know that because you're the professor.
Yeah, but not of geography.
Well, Spain has 7 different regions, like counties, right? And so Rioja is a region.
And these are wine regions we're talking about?
No, yes, I'm talking about both now. I'm talking about because Rioja, the wine area, so to speaking, actually falls above 3 different regions.
Okay.
So Rioja is quite a large area. Maybe that's also why they have become so famous.
We're talking north of Madrid here, aren't
north
we?
of Madrid,
For those that don't know the geography, Madrid is pretty much right in the center of Spain.
Yes.
And you're heading up towards the north.
Exactly. Now, actually, as I said, the actual region of Rioja obviously has its own wine production, but on top of that, you have the Basque Country, yes. And obviously Basque Country is as far as north as you can come.
That's right. It sort of borders onto France, doesn't
Exactly, they do. So actually the upper part of the Rioja wine district is in the Basque Country.
Wow.
Okay?
Right, okay.
So obviously, if you go to the Basque Country, you will have some excellent wines as well. If you go further north, then crossing, let's say, the frontiers of the wine district, you will come to places such as Bilbao and not to mention San Sebastian, which is known for its famous food.
Yeah.
I think it's the place in the world with most Michelin stars restaurants.
Really, yeah.
So they say.
lot of
Anyway-
seafood. Lot of seafood.
A lot of seafood. Anyway, the food is excellent. You don't have to go to Michelin restaurants up there. I haven't been yet, but I've been there, and I can highly recommend it.
Right.
And also, they have their local wine, which is a white wine, a bit sparkling, and then you think, "Ooh," but it, like I said before, it goes very well with the food they make. So
Yeah.
we're back to the same. It's like it's the perfect match.
Yeah.
Let's stay to Rioja. So, Rioja, the region, obviously, like any other region, has its capital, and you, as a professor, would know the name of that.
Rioja.
God hell. You should get your school money back.
No. Wait a minute. I taught German and I taught business. I didn't teach geography. Come
Didn't
on.
you?
No.
How long have you been in Spain?
Too long.
Exactly. Anyway, it's not. I love it, Peter. Make it easy, but no, it's called Logroño.
Oh, Logroño. Yeah. Oh, if you just mentioned that, I would have remembered.
Of
Hansi,
course you
know?
would, yeah. I'll send you a list. So Logroño is the capital in the region, the Rioja region. Okay, and obviously you go out there for a meal and you ask for a house wine, it will be absolutely fab, which not necessarily always happen here on the coast.
No.
And the price will be €2 for an absolute, because obviously wine production is their main.
Is this what in the places you're talking about, what they call a sort of vino de la tierra?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is just a kind of, well, it is a house wine, isn't it? It's just
Exactly, it is a
sort
house
of
wine.
a local, maybe even smallish production, and maybe made in someone's backyard.
Could be. Then again, of course, Rioja also are famous for wines such as Marqués de Cáceres, Marqués de Riscal, for instance.
Yeah.
We are buying our wines from a winery that is opposite of Marqués de Riscal. You have El Coto, you have many famous wines. Famous doesn't necessarily mean that they are top of the range from my point of view. It means
Sure.
that they've done a good marketing and so on and so on. But yes, if you go in Logroño, whatever place you go, many of them will have wines from these small wineries. Maybe they even have a winery themselves, you know. It's like,
Sure.
So, yeah, highly recommendable. A very nice city as well. Now, as I mentioned, the wine district, the Rioja, so part of it is in the Basque Country, the other obviously is in the Rioja, and the third is in Navarra,
Okay.
which is also a region, okay? So we also buy wines from the Navarra
Yeah,
region,
and
but still the Rioja.
Navarra has its own denomination as well, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Navarra wines.
Exactly, they do.
Yeah.
And that's what you're saying is important because, you know, there's a certain way of making these wines. You can't just, you know, you can't buy in a winery and it's very strict, it's protected, and there are inspectors showing up without your knowledge to make sure that the quality and the way of making the wine is followed to each and every step.
And are you one of those inspectors that you're going around saying, I'm coming to inspect your wines now?
I'm more like the consumer.
The
end of it.
consumer.
Yeah. So
But is it true, Hansi, that in these different areas they're also restricted to which grapes they can grow and which grapes they can use for making wine?
So it is. Some places more strict than others. But for instance, the Rioja, as well as the Ribera, we will come to later on, the most famous grape is Tempranillo. I don't remember the exact percentage, so no one will, you know,
Right.
chop my head off later on. But I think in Rioja, you can't blend it with another grape more than maybe 15-20%. So the
Right,
main
okay.
grape, red wine, will be Tempranillo.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Yeah.
Okay?
Right, now, just a minute. We have a glass of wine before us at
We
the
do.
moment. Is this a Rioja?
This is a Rioja. It is from the very winery I mentioned. They have a production about, I think this one, maybe 8,000 bottles a year.
Right.
It's a young wine, which means it's not haven't touched wood, not been on barrel, and it's from the bodega I mentioned that is opposite of Marqués de Riscal, which is
Okay.
a huge winery. And this bodega is called Caucus, which is Latin.
Ah, right.
Why? Because the village is called El Ciego, and as you know, that means the blind.
Diego, the blind one.
And
Yeah.
apparently, in Latin, the blind one is Caucus, so that's why.
Right.
So this is.
This is not sort of telling you what it does to you now.
I hope not. We'll try it. We'll see. There's a reason why you wear glasses.
I mean, if it's a young wine, I mean, you got to drink it quickly.
just
haven't
like
you?
us.
Yeah.
I mean, young. Cheers.
Cheers, Hansi. It's a very nice looking wine, this, isn't
It
it?
is.
It's a
Yeah.
very full bodied red,
is.
isn't it?
It is. And basically, I mean, kind of like a joke, but it's not. I mean, a wine is like a juice with alcohol. I mean, if you took the alcohol out of it, it would be a very nice juice.
Okay.
Well,
You're not convinced me there.
you still want the alcohol in
I
it?
want the alcohol in it.
Fine,
It's,
fine.
it's like I'm not actually a big fan of the alcohol-free beers and alcohol-free wines.
I could tell a joke, but I won't because it'd be the last time we would broadcast.
Please don't.
Okay. Let's move on, shall we?
Right. So we've been in
Rioja. I would reckon Rioja would take you from here 8 hours drive, maybe more or less,
Right.
up to Logroño. Then again, there is this tremendous invention that is called the Google Maps. So
Right. So you can
But,
visit
yeah,
it from there.
yeah.
Yeah. But
more or
you-
less.
You can't taste the wines on Google Maps.
No, you can't. That's true. But you can find out how long time it's going to take you. to
Okay,
get there.
typically, I think that there is a sort of idea, Hansi, that you have red meats with red wine, or red wines with red meats, and you have white wines with white meats or fish. How true is that sort of generally?
I think these Spanish wines have evolved a lot over the last 15, 20 years. French has been known to be the masters, and in many ways still are, but it's been a big progress, so to speaking, for the Spanish wines.
Right.
What's this?
Oh, Dave, that's a great sound.
So sorry.
Isn't
this is your
it?
next wine.
I haven't finished the first one yet.
Might
Yes.
be
So, but,
sangria at the end. You're just going to mix
put it
it.
all together. So what you're saying is that the French have been a bit more, how could I say, imaginative about what should go with what, or
There's two reasons for that. The way I see it, I think food has processed, a lot in terms of it's been an evolution there as well. Quality, meat, fish, vegetables, and so on and so on. And wine the same. So there's I think we have a big selection of both. So it's
Right.
easier to find the perfect match for them to go together. So there is really no, obviously, if you have a wine that doesn't really matter where it comes from. It depends on the grape, depends on the blend, because the flavors will be very different. But for instance, if you have a piece of meat, steak, heavy, the first thing that would come to mind would still be red.
right? Okay.
It would. Now, then today there are white wines, for instance, that also been on barrels, so they also have the flavors and the characters of the wood. And I done wine tasting, blindfolded, and people said that no, I don't like red, and I gave them a bit of this white wine, and it has some of the same like chocolate, like vanilla, and so on. So they were
Okay.
surprised. So there's a huge variety of wines. So it's in general you can say seafood and so on, white, meat, red, but it's not. It doesn't have to be that way. It depends.
Right. I'm going to ask you about
Come on.
the chocolate, the vanilla, the whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Where do these flavors come from? Because when I buy a bunch of grapes at the local market, I'm not tasting vanilla or chocolate. I'm tasting grapes.
Probably because they haven't been on barrel long enough or whatsoever.
Right, so some of
because
these-
the wood is what gives, and in the world of winemaking, it's either French oak or American oak. Lately, they're also trying out Hungarian oak, but that's the funny thing. So oak apparently has this skill that when it's mixed with wine,
Fermenting wine.
it brings out flavors that. Why do you think that? It's like people say vanilla, chocolate, coffee.
Yeah.
Has they not put any chocolate or vanilla in there?
Raspberry. I can taste raspberry.
Yeah.
It's like, well, how did raspberries get into my wine?
The woodpecker. Anyway,
Oh, hilarious. So that's Rioja, and I think what you said was quite important, Hansi. That just because Rioja has this name and this reputation, it doesn't necessarily mean that every wine that comes out of Rioja you're going to like.
no, not necessarily. Absolutely not. And that's the good thing. You can always find. I mean, due to the selection we have of wines today, I'm quite sure that if you, in general, like wine, you will find a wine that you will fancy and you would because, like I said, different areas, different grapes, the different flavors. So there's a lot to choose from. It's like anything else. If it's,
Yeah.
I mean, how many different kinds of juices or so
Yeah.
it shouldn't be hard if you like wine to find a wine you like. And
Well,
that's
I
the good
haven't-
thing. We have
I
different tastes.
haven't found many that I couldn't drink. Right?
Couldn't drink.
That I couldn't drink. Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily buy them all, but I'd drink them.
Yeah, that's out of politeness. You go someplace and this is what they have, you drink it. That's the only thing.
Absolutely,
No,
yeah.
obviously, and then wine have different purposes as well. Like you have wine for cooking. You can't use a Gran Reserva for cooking. It will
No.
kill the food. So it all depends. Back again to the same. It has to be a match in every sense, from making the food to finishing it to eating it to.
I'll tell you something to make you cringe. We had some family over, and our niece, who is then in her late 20s, said, do you have red wine? And I thought, well, yeah, we have. Let's open a decent bottle. So it was a Grand Reserva. And she poured it in and she said, have you got Coke? And she proceeded to fill up the rest of the glass with Coca-Cola, red wine and Coke. It was like, if you told me you were going to pour Coke in it, I would have given you some of the cooking wine.
Totally. Yeah, but we're different, and that's the good thing. So I'm a wine lover and enjoy it, and sometimes just having a glass, and other times with the perfect food.
Right. So, Hansi, we have another wine before our eyes,
We do.
and even I can tell this is a white wine.
That means that the first one didn't make us go blind.
No, the first one didn't make us.
So even the blind one made us okay. Yes, we are going from Rioja.
You see, what people may not realize is that Dave, our producer, can actually see us, although you can only hear us, folks. So I'm just holding up this nice glass of wine for Dave to make him jealous.
He's getting thirsty. I think,
Okay, let's try this one, Hansi.
right? Yeah.
Oh, God, that is good. That is
Life
good.
is too short to drink bad wine and eat bad food.
Yeah,
Simple as
like
that.
my €2 bottles.
Totally. But then again, that's your
But-
choice.
But this is just absolutely full of flavour. It's got a kind of a fruitiness, but not sweetness. And
Well,
it's
The funny thing is this.
full of flavour.
This wine is from Penedès. Okay, Penedès as well. Mostly famous for making cava. In the old days, it was called
So
champagne.
this is from Catalonia.
This is from Catalonia. This would be like, I think, about 30, 40 minutes drive outside of Barcelona.
Right. Okay. And for people, yeah, to get an idea
Right.
where Catalonia is, it's on the sort of northeast coast of Spain.
Correct.
In the sort of inland sea area. Almost,
Correct.
You know?
Also bordering France.
Right.
But, so we have País Vasco, the Basque country, up, and then we have Catalonia down,
Catalonia. Okay.
following the border. Now, Penedès mostly, as I said, famous from cava from the old days. Then the French said, you can't call it cava. No, sorry, they called it champagne. So they said no, so they called it cava. And cava is the Catalan word for cave, because cava you kind of store underneath
Sure.
15, 20, 30 meters underground. Now, they also make some excellent wine. And when you said like this, for instance, have a touch of sweetness. Why? Because one of the grapes, this is a coupage, a blend. And one of the grapes is Muscat, which we also use a lot in Andalusia.
Yes, well, we have about, I don't know, 20 or 30 vines in our garden, and they're all muscatel grapes. And we did decide that there's mosto, which
Yeah.
is supposed to just be grape juice.
Yeah.
We had this fantastic amount of grapes one year, and we thought, let's just make some mosto with it.
Right?
And so we made the mosto and we bottled it and corked it. It wasn't fermented. Then we tried it about 4 or 5 weeks later, and the corks had just about popped out of the bottles because there's so much yeast on the grape itself that it decided to start fermenting in the bottles.
Yes, so this is a blend, I said, 4 different grapes. It's a white wine, as you said. It's Charleroi, which is a very famous grape. All these grapes are also used for cava. So basically, a cava is a wine
Right.
with yeast on it. That's where you get the bubbles from. So it's a different process. We can talk about it another day. So this is Charleroi, Chardonnay, many people
Okay.
heard of, Macabou, and Muscat. Okay?
Right, so you got 4 grapes in here, but
Yes.
actually, this is not your watery white wine that you
No.
might get served as a house wine in some cheap restaurants.
No.
This is. I mean, I'm not going to go down the road of which flavors I can taste, but it's absolutely full of flavor.
It is.
It is. I don't know. There's a real fruitiness to it without it being sweet.
Exactly.
So it's I guess it's a reasonably dry white wine, but
is.
it's really fruity.
It is.
Yeah. So what's the name of this wine? We had Keikos, and this one is
This one is the winery is called Mas Codina.
Mascodina.
Small winery, 2 brothers. They make cava and some excellent wines, also red. The soil is quite similar to what you find in Bordeaux. So many of the qualities of the wines will be
Right.
similar to a Bordeaux wine. Okay?
So you visited this winery as well, Hansi,
Been.
yeah?
There and a few others, cava and different wines. And like I said, excellent quality, small production. And it doesn't have to cost a lot to...
Yeah.
It's not because I'm against anything, but I mean wine production in general. But some people, I just think that it's too commercialized. You're paying
Right.
for the name, not necessarily the quality of the wine.
Yeah, well, I mean, while we're in Catalonia, I have to be honest and say that I very often enjoy a reasonable bottle of cava to an expensive bottle of champagne. To my taste, it's sometimes just more pleasant.
Yeah, and obviously that's the main thing up there is cava. So if you go to a restaurant in Penedès, probably you ask for the wine list, and maybe the 2 first pages are cavas, and then you ask for some kind of meat, an entrecot or whatever, and they will recommend you some cavas because they can have strong flavors and really match well,
Right.
even meat. So it's quite interesting. It's like it's a science, and that's what kind of gets to me. It's a life study.
Yes. Hansi, we're going to take a little break
Yes.
while we finish off this wine, and then we're going to come back and talk about some of the other places that you visited, if you can remember.
After this wine, still yes, I think.
Okay. Dave, it's over to you. We'll take a short break and we'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back. Hansi's already getting drunk. He's already on to the second glass of wine.
Still on my chair.
You're still. That's because you can't stand up now, Hansi.
You can sit on the
It's
floor if you
it's
want.
only your legs that are drunk.
Yeah, okay.
So we're just trying some. We've got a nice white wine, Dave. Very nice white wine, and Hansi's having some
Salmon wrap.
salmon wrap.
Being Norwegian, you have to be a bit Belgian,
Yeah. That's. Of course, it was hand caught, fresh, wild Norwegian salmon. Yeah,
In a waterfall,
in a waterfall.
totally.
Yes, caught by a bear.
As well. And that's the bear you're having there.
I'm eating the bear. I've got the bear. Yep. So Hansi, you've got a lot of places that you've been to, and
I have.
we're kind of focused on 2.
Yeah.
Where would you like to? Where would
I
you
think
like
we're going
to
to
visit
do a
next?
short trip.
Okay.
And they are neighbors. Because if we're going to have all these wines, we're going to crawl home. So we are going down to Ribera del Duero, which many people also know of. I think Rioja and Ribera del Duero is the most famous wine areas in Spain. Doesn't make them the best ones in every way. But so obviously Ribera del Duero is in the biggest region, which obviously you know the name of.
And now you're going to ask me what the capital is.
Of course. Well, I don't even know the capitals, I won't. But if you know, you can tell them. But the region I know, the biggest region in Spain is called...
Yeah.
Yeah. It's called Castilla y León.
Okay. That one. Yeah.
that
I know that one.
It's
Yeah.
not big enough for you, so you don't remember. Okay. Anyway, Ribera del Duero is in Castilla y León. And Castilla, you know that the written language in Spanish is called Castellano.
Castellano. Yeah.
And apparently that's because the Queen of Spain that took it back in 1492, She was from Castilla y León, and that's why they call it Castellano.
Okay,
You should know as a professor.
that I do know.
Well, there you go.
That I do know.
So, and the province is called Valladolid, which is a bit of a small, miniature kind of Madrid. I like Valladolid.
But Valladolid was, for a very short time, the capital of Spain.
Well, there you go.
I think it only lasted about 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
But the capital was moved to Valladolid. So, although it's not maybe a huge city, it's got a kind of regalness about it, hasn't it? You know, with the huge
It does.
square.
Exactly.
The sort of
I call it a
typical-
mini Madrid.
Mini Madrid, yeah, because the square in the centre of Valladolid is not unlike the Plata Mayor
Exactly.
in Madrid, yeah.
So, Ribera del Duero will be like 20, 25 minutes drive from Valladolid, obviously, wine area.
Yeah.
As said before, the most important grape is Tempranillo. I don't remember the percentage, but I think it's something similar to Rioja, maybe 15, 20%. And of other grapes, I mean, blends.
Right, okay.
I believe most people have tried the Ribera del Duero wines. And the why I said neighbors is because if you go a bit west of Ribera, you go to a place called Rueda.
Now, Hansi, I have to say this. If I am just to choose a white and a red wine, it would be Ribera del Duero for the red and Rueda for the white. I don't have to think about it.
Well, there you go. If you were
because
to win the lottery and you want to buy wineries, they're close. So that's
I've had some, you know, from some of the other areas. I'm not going to talk about them, or they might send a hit out on me or something. But I've had some wines that I would call a bit watery, and I've had some very nice Riojas, and I've had some Riojas, you know, drinkable but not great. I don't think I've ever had a bad red Ribera or a bad white Rueda. You know, for me, these are, as a drinker rather than a sommelier, these for me are always safe bets for Spanish wines.
I agree with you. Also, I'm more a Ribera guy than Rioja, for instance. When it comes to Rueda, I might disagree with you, but that's the good thing. It's a personal taste, and that's the amazing thing, because there's something out there for each and every one, and that's the good thing about it. So, like you say, Rueda is mainly it's also in the province. The production is mainly in Valladolid, but also a bit in Segovia and Avila, and the main grape is Verdejo, and most of the wines that comes from there are
Rueda
100%.
Verdejo. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah.
So it's like 6 hours drive to get there.
But you also sell the Rueda Verdejo here, don't you? You have a
Yes, I
number
do.
of-
We have from 2 different wineries,
Right.
100% Verdejo and then Rueda.
So is this coming down to the grapes that they use to produce these more
Yes.
than anything else?
Yes.
There may be grapes that produce a much more flavorful wine.
Exactly. The grapes are kind of suited for the climate, and that's why they use Verdejo, that's why they use Tempranillo and so on. We'll keep traveling, and then you will see in other areas they use other
Right.
grapes for the same reason. It's like anything, I believe. It's like, you know, depending on the climate, as you said, for instance, in the Rueda, in the Ribera, it can go down to minus maybe 5, 6, 7 degrees in the winter, which is also important for the production of wines, because they need that.
Right.
Well, if you here in the southern Spain, it wouldn't work the same way. And in the northern parts, where you have the Atlantic closer, maybe it will be different again. And that's where I was thinking we were going now, because you're a Rueda fan.
Yes. Well, so you've been to Rioja and Catalonia. The hangover is receding, and you head over to Ribera del Duero and Rueda.
Rueda, yes. And now we're going to go up to as far north and west as we can go. So we are pretty much on the border towards Portugal. Now, this is my favorite in general, white wine area. We are in Galicia, where they speak Gallego, as you know, which I find being a mix of Portuguese and
Well,
Spanish.
it is this, but like Catalan is a little bit like a mixture of Spanish and French. Gallego sounds
Yeah.
a bit like this combination of Portuguese and Spanish. Yeah.
It does. It does. And the most famous wine producing area, there are several. The most famous wine producing area is called Rias Baixas. Okay? And this is, I would, maybe 15-20 minutes drive from the Portuguese border. Portugal also have some excellent wines. For instance, you mentioned the Ribeira, the Douro. You go to Portugal and they call it not Douro, they call it Douro. But the quality of the wines is the same. Same here, you go up to the northern western parts, you have Rias Baixas that belongs to Spain in Galicia and in the province of Pontevedra.
Okay.
But you will find some excellent Portuguese wine as well on the other side of the... I like Galicia. I've been there several times. I've been to Vigo, I've been to La Coruña.
That's where Franco came from, isn't it?
Who?
General Franco was
maybe it was. Yeah,
from
he
La
was.
Coruña.
Was he?
Yes, yeah.
Well, I didn't know that. You learn
Well,
something every day.
there you go. You see,
I
I'm
have
a
to check on
professor, yeah.
Wikipedia, Bill. I don't really know, but I'll check. So, well, you know where Galicia is situated, and yeah, it's worth a trip. Obviously, they're very famous for a very typical plate,
Right.
and you know the name of that one.
Pulpo a la gallega.
That's
yeah.
the one, which in English would be
Which is octopus, and it's served sliced into fine slices on a bed of boiled potatoes.
That's right.
With paprika, preferably smoked paprika,
Correct.
sprinkled over the top. Yeah. But I know the Rias Baixas, which is probably means that the low rivers, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. I've only ever drunk whites from there. Do they produce any reds up there, Hansi?
They do as well, but many areas it's kind of interesting because where, for instance, they're famous from red, and if they make some white, it's very often blends, different grapes, and it's the same in Rias Baixas. They do make red wine, but the most famous is still white wines because
Right.
it's not that easy for them because the climate is not the right one for producing red wine. It doesn't mean that they don't have good red wines because they have a few good red wines. But in
Right.
general, the easy way to get around it is white wine.
Right, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we've done a sweep really right over the sort of northern part of Spain from Ribera del Duero to Rioja and into Galicia,
Yes,
which is about as far north in Spain as you can go.
correct. Northwest. Yes, west. Yep.
Yep. So where are we going to next, Hansi, if your liver can take it?
We are going to. You ever been to a bullfight?
No.
Neither have I. But we are going to a place which is the same name as in Spanish for bull.
Toro.
Toro.
Yeah.
is not a very famous wine area yet. It is, we kind of said now where we have Ribera, and west of Ribera you have Rueda, white wines, and then west of Rueda you have Toro. Okay? Toro is mainly famous for excellent red wines.
Okay.
And they do a lot of blends. So we would be not far away from the Portuguese border, but further down,
further
probably
south,
just
yeah.
further south, exactly. So we will have to try this.
Right. What have you got there?
We're gonna try a wine from Toro.
From Toro.
Second,
Okay.
I have to get my colleague, Mr. Bert, here.
Yeah, I mean, it really, you shouldn't really have your waiter serving customers at the table when we're doing this, Hansi, you know.
Totally. I'll get one.
Hansi has just popped out into his storeroom to pick up a bottle of Toro wine. Oh, here we are. We're
You
back.
can't go wrong when you're on Conrisa and you find a wine that is called.
Called Sonrisa.
There you go. So Toro.
Sonrisa means a smile in Spanish.
Exactly. So Toro is in the province of Zamora.
Okay, I haven't been anywhere near to that, I have to be honest.
Well, you should go. It's a beautiful place, small village, but still famous for excellent wine production. And I said, usually blends, because the climate doesn't really allow one grape only. You
Right.
kind of have to one grape because it's cold. We were
Right.
there in November, and even then it was like -1. So
Who decides what grapes have to go into what wine? Oh, that was a serious pop.
when you are part of this, like you say, you are kind of underneath this protection, or
Yeah, the denomination of origin.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's the one in English. You have to follow certain rules, and like I said, there are inspectors that come out, and so each and every bottle, I think it's like 15-20 cent, actually goes to that kind of association, which you will have to pay if you want to be part of it.
All right.
So
Okay.
that's where they make the money, and then they come out and check and make sure that you do everything correctly.
Yeah.
So then they have decided that within this region, these are the grapes that are allowed to produce and
Okay.
use, for you to be able to put the stamp on your bottle and say that this is done in accordance to.
Yeah. So we have a red wine here from Toro, the bull. Nothing to do with Sangre de Toro. That's a different
Well,
wine.
that is a different one. That's Torres.
That's Torres. Oh,
Yes.
okay. Now, I don't know if it's my imagination or if it's brighter outside, but this seems like a little bit lighter in colour than the first red that we tried.
I don't think we're getting brighter, at least, but maybe the wine. Yes, because then again,
It's just not quite the same sort of deep red that
No,
the first one,
it's
which
not.
was a Rioja.
even this one is actually made of Tempranillo.
Okay.
But they call it Tinta de Toro. So, for instance, certain areas, they change the name of the grape, even if it's the same one. Okay?
Ah, right.
So
okay.
they call it Tinta, like the
the ink, the
ink of Toro,
Yeah.
while it's Tempranillo. And this one's been 6 months on barrel,
Okay.
and it's not that common in Toro. They have a lot of blends, but this one particularly is drinkable.
Right. Let's try this one, Hansi.
Mhm.
It leaves a drier taste in the mouth, doesn't
It
it?
does. It does. It does. Like anything else that grows, if you grow a tomato in Andalusia or grow one in England, it would be different. It's
Yeah.
pretty much the same because it's the same grape, but the flavors
I
are
think
different.
I probably wouldn't have noticed that if we'd had this one after the Rioja, but after the white, the Penedès wine, you taste a much sort of drier taste. It's not unpleasant.
No, it's not. It's a nice wine, indeed. And this for me would be, for instance, a meat wine. It's quite, you can have a glass, but it's quite
Yes.
powerful, like
And
punchy.
and
so-
your chef Malala has very generously brought a piece of sirloin down to drink with this, or
Yeah.
to eat with this rather.
Yeah, yeah.
God, I'm starting to stir my words.
I think Shona did that, so we shouldn't get drunk. That's why she gave us some food, to be
Yeah.
honest.
So I'm going to try a little bit of this sirloin, and I Malala knows me well, and I'm one of these Philistines that likes my meat well done.
She done it well.
I always say that I can't eat anything that a good vet could bring back to life. So,
Okay, so next place we're gonna go is in Murcia.
okay. So
Yeah.
we're going to a completely different area.
We're
now.
going, like I said, up and down and back and forth. Murcia is not that big.
No,
Maybe people have heard of La Manga,
I've been to La Manga.
so have I.
Yeah.
The northern parts of Murcia, the region, there is a town called Jumilla. So Jumilla is also the wine district.
Right. Okay.
Right. The thing is that just as we mentioned Rioja, the wine district area is falling upon 3 different regions. We have the same case in Jumilla, because 60% of the production of Jumilla wines are actually produced outside of Murcia. There is a place called Albacete.
I know. I haven't been there, but I know the name certainly.
Yeah. And that used to be part of Murcia until 1978. Then it became part of Castilla-La Mancha, where they make a cheese that is called...
Manchego.
That's it.
Yeah,
You're getting there.
I'm getting there.
Absolutely. So 60% of the Jumilla wine production is actually taking place in Castilla-La Mancha. Once again, with the November, they had 1- in the morning, so it's quite cold and it's quite high up. I think it's about 800 meters above sea level, which is
Okay.
quite a lot.
Yeah.
So a bit of the same here. These where the weather conditions tend to vary a lot, very warm, very cold. They very often end up doing blend mixes.
Yeah, I guess they determine what can and can't be grown in those areas, don't they?
Exactly. And this is also red. And the guy that started this winery, his English not particularly good, which is fine.
Okay.
So he came up with a name.
Come on.
And he wanted to export, including to the US. Didn't really get it why there was no one took the bait.
Yeah.
Because the first name he put was,
Crap.
yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So now we have added,
Crapula.
yeah.
This is like we were down at the baker's the other I think last weekend. The bakery shop was open, and in the window in big signs it said fartons, and it's like, how can people order one of these with a straight face? Yeah, give me 2 fartons. So we haven't got crap, we've got crapulas.
Crapula, exactly.
Yeah.
Just put
So
in goulag.
tell us about this wine then, Hansi.
Well, if you're still not blind, you can see that it's red. Quite
I can
Sure.
tell it's red.
well. You get that, right? Since I'm getting old, I have to look. It's a mix of 50% of Monastrell, which is not a very common
know
and
it.
famous
Yeah.
grape, and Syrah. Syrah is quite famous.
Syrah is- yeah.
But Monastrell is more that area. Castilla-La Mancha, Jumilla. Also, if you go further up the coast, up to Valencia. So we're back to the same. Certain grapes are more adaptable and gives, particular and good flavors
Sure.
in different areas.
And actually, a very pleasant wine though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Those are from Murcia.
Murcia.
Murcia is not an area, mind you, Jumilla I have heard of,
Yeah.
but Murcia is not an area that I would automatically think of
No.
wine producing.
And actually, what they are famous is making a lot of wine, but not of very good quality. And since I was there, went out, we had a drink, ordered wine. If you go to, let's say, a regular place there and you order house wine, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good wine. So,
Right.
But there are always exceptions, luckily.
Yeah, because Murcia is next to Almeria, really, isn't
It
it?
is.
And Almeria is famous for growing fruit and veg and not
And
grapes.
so is Murcia.
All right,
Actually,
okay.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
so like
the-
the southern part, but the northern part is too cold, so it's more.
I think Almeria is where they did a lot of these spaghetti westerns as
Yeah,
well.
that's totally-
Yeah,
yeah.
because
Clint
some of it is
Eastwood.
almost desert.
No, it is. True.
Yeah. So again, what can I say? I would say it's good. Probably I've tasted others that
Better.
are better, but it's certainly not. It's certainly not a bad wine at all.
No, it's not. Also, for me, more how should we say, eating wine.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So with a wine like this, it really is important what you have with it.
Like I said, I can have a glass. That would be nice. But if I wouldn't go for a second one just to drink the wine. I would have
Right.
it with some kind of food. Yeah. I
Right.
would.
Yeah. And the time is running on. My goodness, we've got 3 minutes.
Okay.
Just to mention, Hansi, you also go looking for good cheeses as well, don't
We
you?
do.
And well, we know that because every time you get some in, we buy one whole
Yeah.
one from you.
Yeah.
And do cheese and wine go together in production terms?
course it does.
in these areas.
Of course it does.
Yeah.
And like I said, you know that we got some cheese from the Basque country, which is not that famous. It's the Manchego cheese that is more
Right.
famous. But you will find this. I think many countries like Spain, like Italy, like France, Portugal, they have a huge production today of many different, how should you say, gourmet products, and the quality is quite good in many areas.
Right.
You just need to find them. But yeah, of course, then again, cheese and wine should never be wrong. You just need to find the right cheese and the right wine.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know, the wine is enhanced by a good cheese, isn't it?
Totally. Then again, sometimes we do wine tastings here, and if we have a wine that's been stored for a while and we feel that it's losing a bit of its quality, well, then we can make food that kind of, not saying kills the wine, but kind of,
Compliments.
complements or soften down a
Right,
bit.
right.
So it's a balance.
Hansi, can you believe our time has gone and we've only managed to drink about 4 glasses of wine?
I know. What are we going to do with the rest?
I don't know. I can hang on for a bit and finish it off for you. Hansi, thank you so much for joining me
My
again
pleasure,
today.
Bill.
It's always a pleasure.
Indeed it
and,
is.
and,
Likewise.
and I love just talking about these things and also obviously sampling. Thanks to Bernd for serving the wines for us and to Malala as well for cooking the things to go with it. Well, Hansi, you have a fantastic wine tasting every 2 weeks, but people do need to book, don't they?
They do
Conrisa Cafe, you can find it on Facebook. You have a
can.
website the same?
as well.
Conrisa Cafe,
Well, Conrisa.com.
conrisa.com. Thank you to everyone for joining us today. I have enjoyed this.
So do I.
I always leave Hansi's happy.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Thank you so much, my friend. Have a great weekend. Take care, and we will be back next week at the same time. Take care, everyone.